series. It's great to see some people that I reckon, some names that I recognise joining the webinar. And as you can see, today's is how to be productive and avoid burnout during business growth. We've got Emma Mills-Sheffield joining us, who is a fantastic speaker and panelist, and we really look forward to hearing her views and opinions and ideas later on. I'm just going to give a quick introduction to myself and to Tide. So if you go to the next slide, please. So I am the events manager here at Tide. My name is Kuan Hawker, and for those of you who don't know about Tide, we are a business current account designed for SMEs and for freelancers to save you guys time and money with your business banking needs. We currently have over 200,000 customers in the UK. And we are just great for, like I said, for small businesses, startup and freelancers. There's no monthly or annual fee on the account, no minimum deposit and no credit checks. So it means you can try us out even if you have a business bank account somewhere else. You can try us out alongside that business bank account to have a direct comparison on cost, ease of use, and the time it will save you, and to have a look at the app and all the amazing features that have some of them listed there on the screen for you. It usually takes about 5 or 10 minutes to sign up for the account. At the end of that time, you'll get your sort code and account number, so you can start banking straight away. When I joined Tide and signed up for the account, I timed the process, and it took 4 minutes and 37 seconds, which I thought was quite a good marker and made the company look really good in my eyes. And as I mentioned, Tide is packed full of really good time-saving features for your banking needs. So you've got auto-categorization. Sorry, just hit my microphone there. Auto-categorization, which allows you to see where your money has gone and when it went there, which means it makes the whole idea of knowing where your money's gone really quick and simple. We've got a brand new invoicing feature, which we released maybe a month or two ago after we listened to our customers, and that's something they really wanted. Again, it's free, really easy to use, and makes managing your invoices nice and simple. We have updated professional invoice templates, which you can include your logo on. So when you're sending out invoices, it looks really professional, and all those emails are really editable, totally editable as well. We've also linked up recently with Hakodo to provide invoice protection. So especially in these times, it's really helpful to have insurance against non-payment of invoices, and that's something which you can get through the Tide app as well. You don't need to share a single bank card for the account as well. So if you have co-directors or senior leadership, or even just members of staff who you want to be able to make company expenses, you can order up to 30 cards for the one account, and obviously you'll be able to track the spending on those cards really easily as well. And just one more thing about the account itself, you can have up to 4 sub-accounts within that one account, if that makes sense. So you can break it down, and you can have one for marketing, or for events, or for tax. So it's really easy to sort of see where your money is and how you're using it. So I will probably talk to you a bit more, well, I will talk to you a bit more about later about how to join Tide, and we'll now move on to the presentation. Before we do, just for those who maybe don't or haven't used Zoom that much, at the bottom or at the top of the screen, depending on what you're using, there is a chat box and a Q&A box. So we have a Q&A session with Emma at the end of the session, so please do get your questions in there, and any comments, or if you just want to say hello, please do put those into the chat room. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. So Emma is here, obviously she's an amazing strategic business coach. So Emma, it'd be great to have an introduction from you on your background and how you got into helping businesses with their productivity.
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to Tide for inviting me to speak and share some top tips today. Listening to your intro there, actually, I completely agree. When I set my Tide bank account up, it was really, really quick. And yeah, I use the sub one for tax and VAT. I figured that was a sensible way to keep an eye on it, but to, move things out of the way. So yeah, definitely the way forward for sure.
Good.
So yeah, sorry, not a shameless plug there for you. But
I didn't even ask you to do that. That's amazing.
It made me think, because my big thing is productivity and making life easy. Yeah. So anything that helps with that, then I'm all over it.
Great.
So I'll give you a bit of background. So I spent 15 years in industry, in corporates, in digital, in financial services, etc. And I used to commute 4 hours a day, and that was on a good day. And I led major projects, so I sort of used to lead lots of project management and global projects, and loads of different people, and lots of sort of complex issues around that in that space. And that's great. And I help businesses now with the sort of processes and systems to become more efficient and effective. But actually, my real focus is people. So that's why I set up on my own as a consultant. So I blend the people side of business with how to become more efficient actually within the business. Because people aren't performing absolutely brilliantly, and you're not balanced, and you're not taking that time to be, a well-rounded, relaxed human being, you can't work 24/7. And that applies to whether you're a small business owner or whether you are working in a large corporate. And I've seen burnout, and I've seen all of the sort of the negative side of some of the connotations we hear about within large business. And ultimately, there's a lot to do, I think, for business owners around resilience, around understanding how to be more productive, but by working smarter. So productivity does get a bad rap at times, and I think in lockdown you've got two ends of the spectrum, which is if you haven't learned a new language, you haven't mastered a new hobby, and you haven't got fit, then you're failing, which is really harsh. And then you go the other end, which is, hey, if you got dressed today, then that's successful. And I think as business owners, we verge across that spectrum constantly. And I'm going to spend a bit of time just talking about balance in this session today as well, because it's so important to be really intentional in what you do and to not assume that sitting in front of your laptop for 15 hours a day is actually productive. So I hope all of the sort of top tips and techniques that we talk through today will help small business owners.
Great, Emma, that's awesome. Really great introduction. Thank you. I definitely started the get fit and the learn the language at the beginning of lockdown, but I think like maybe 99% of the country that is slightly tailed off on at least one.
Yeah, I mean, hey, even Joe Wicks gave up, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. If he's the marker, then I'm happy with that. That's good. So before we just get on to the main body of the presentation, I just want to run a quick poll. We just want to have an understanding of who we're talking to, and so if you would please answer this question, which should now be on your screens, just so we know the sort of people that we're talking to. I'll give it a couple more seconds for people to answer. Where are we at? We're at 77% anymore. Let's see if we can get 100%. I don't think about 100% on any polls yet. Okay, we'll leave it there and share the results. So as you can see, we've got a good percentage of people who are self-employed or in the smaller businesses. So that just gives us an idea of who we're talking to. So thank you very much for that. Great. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So Emma, for small businesses, we know that can be a lot of conflicting priorities in terms of what to do and when to do it. And so it'd be really interesting to get your thoughts on how you should prioritize and what's important for small businesses.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen it often where there's just an overwhelm of stuff that has to be done. Yeah. And it's really, really hard to know what to prioritize when, especially something comes in and it's marked urgent, for instance. Yeah. I would always encourage you to kind of take a breath, step back and say, but who's it urgent for? So it's normally urgency implies it's someone else's deadline, not your own. If it's your own, it's more likely to be important. And that might sound like a sort of subtle difference, but actually really to work on the important stuff first is as close to working on the most strategic things first. And the reason I talk about purpose, and this really goes back to the heart of my business and my approach, is you kind of start from your own values and start from where you want to go. As a small business owner, you're going to have huge passion and a real desire to succeed because you went into business for a reason. Otherwise, you just get a job. There's quite a difference there. And as a small business owner, it's quite easy to go off track and almost forget why you started this, especially when we're fiddling with WordPress at 1 a.m. because we need to try and update something and something else isn't working, and tax returns due as well. But I always encourage business owners to just stop and take time to spend time on your business, not in it, but on it. So thinking about your strategy, where you're going, what are your long-term goals and your vision. And by working backwards from there, we can start to take really actionable steps to say, right, in 5 years, I really want to be, financially independent. And what that means to me is the following things. You can start to then, by working backwards, understand, well, what do I actually need to do to achieve that? And it's really, really hard to set a daily goal or target on something that's really abstract and out in the future. It's great to vision, to sort of have a vision of things, but seeing that lovely desert island and the nice sort of cabana on the beach that's in your dreams, it really doesn't tie in that well on a daily basis when you're struggling to understand why you're trying to upload a page on WordPress. So it's kind of, it's looking at that, saying, right, what do I need to achieve that? Is it a lump sum of money? Is it a different approach to my business? Is it freeing up time? And by working backwards, you can then really start to get a grip on what you need to do this year. Therefore, 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, down to a week and down to a day, so that everything you do has a tangible impact on your long-term goals. So purpose is it's a very, very personal thing. But once you kind of get really comfortable in thinking, this is why I'm in business. And, so my purpose in business is to help business owners to become more efficient and productive and resilient, because I have a belief that life is short. So let's get everything done. Let's get done what we have to get done. Go have fun, do something else. Go and do something in your community, go and help someone else. Or go and lie in the hammock in the garden, because, life is short. And so when you start to really boil that down, it's much easier to be clear on what you have to do. And that then leads into the priorities. Your priorities are those really important actions that are going to get you to where you need to be. And everything else starts to fall away. You can sort of categorize everything you have on your mind and on your list, really, by when you've got your top priorities, there might be 3 things. They really align to your strategy. And once that's clear, it's much easier to even say no to things. I'm a big believer in saying, actually, I can't do that right now. And that's okay. That's great. It's really empowering to say no. And a lot of people don't. So the old adage, if you want something done, ask a busy person, is unfortunately a bit true. But it's also okay for people to say, no, that's not a priority for me right now. And I'm very comfortable now saying, no, I can't prioritize that. Not a case of, oh, I'll get to it when I can. It's, I'm sorry, but that's not a priority for me right now. And it's a really strong feeling. And it's actually quite good when other people understand where your priorities are. And then that really leads on to being productive. So without understanding your purpose and where you're going, what your priorities are, then you can lead into productivity. Otherwise, we try and juggle everything at once while spinning plates and think we're winning, but we can't. We can't be productive if we don't go back to the basics and understand why we're doing what we're doing. So that's really why I sort of spend a lot of time on priorities, because we'll chase our tail forever otherwise in small business if we don't get really clear on those.
I think the what you're saying about saying no is really important. I think it's something that everybody should learn, but it's something I'm getting better at, hopefully. But it took actually somebody to say no to me and knowing my reaction to that before I was comfortable doing. Because if somebody's just honest and go, no, I can't, and there's a reason or a solid reason, and then they go, but maybe this time next week or in 6 months or whatever, then then you can see how you dealt with that or how it felt to you, and then you're more comfortable about saying it to somebody else, aren't you? I think that's what it took for me anyway, really, to sort of be able to my reaction.
It's a bit of a muscle we have to exercise.
Yeah, for sure. Great. So if we can move on to the next slide. Great, thank you. So I think especially over the past few months, time has really sort of merged into days and weeks, and it's been hard to know what day you're on, and to sort of for some people to step away from work, because I think if you're in an office or a business, you close that door or you walk out the office and then that's your time back. But if you're on your sofa or on your desk in your bedroom or whatever, it's hard to kind of close the laptop and get on. So it'd be great to get your idea on how to break things up and make sure we're looking after ourselves as well during this time, and out of lockdown, in whatever the new normal is as well.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a slide I use in every single presentation, this Liz and Molly graphic, this image online that I found a few months ago, and it's never been more relevant now. And we do often think productivity is around hard work. And if we're not actually at our laptop or on the phone, we're not productive, because we're not achieving. But in reality, that leads to a lack of accuracy in work, it leads to ultimately burnout for individuals. You've got well-being is affected, your family are affected. It's not a sensible way of working, and we can do it for bursts. And I think people went into lockdown, especially business owners, with a kind of, okay, this has changed, what are we going to do? Just roll your sleeves up and just keep going. But that kind of reaches a peak. You know, we went through a bit of a trauma and grief cycle at the beginning of lockdown, and we're in another phase now, and we have to be balanced. We need to be sensible by blocking out time for ourselves and for other people. So if you learn to work smarter, you can work in really, really good strategic chunks. And an hour and a half in the morning, if your energy is, you know, you've got your most energy in the morning, an hour and a half of well-planned, well-thought-out strategic work will set you up for the day, and you'll achieve more in that than if you're constantly noodling around inside, you know, here's an email, here's a Slack alert, oh, look, there's WhatsApp, oh, look, there's Instagram. And you're just really sort of playing in that low-level space where you've got so many distractions and you're not actually achieving. So by breaking down your time, and you can do this with families as well, say, okay, well, what does hard work look like for me? You know, is it 8 hours in my office / under stair cupboard / kitchen table, end of the bed, and then the laptop gets put away? Or is it 4 hours in the morning and then you switch because you've got childcare and homeschooling? So, right, I'll do mornings, you do afternoons, and kind of have that balance. And then make sure you take time off. Sleep, massively important. You know, we underestimate it, and people's sleeping patterns have been really quite disrupted during lockdown. And I think some of that's also due to the lack of activity, because we're not commuting, we're not doing the school run, we're not doing what we used to do. You sort of get from, you know, bed to kitchen to desk and back again. And it's changing a bit now, but I know certainly for the first couple of months, there's a lot of reports of very disturbed sleep and this kind of really weird merging of everything. And suddenly going, how is it Friday at 4 o'clock already? You know, it feels like Tuesday. And frankly, we've been in one long Monday for months now already. So it's been weird, but it's so important to eat well, to exercise, and just take that time out. So for me, I advise people to be, productivity isn't just the hard work, it's about how intentional you are. So if you are out with the kids, that's what you're doing. You're not on your phone doing work emails. Like when you're working, your kids are probably going to bowl in and ask for a biscuit, but that's life at the moment. Ideally, you've got your head down, you're working. And you know, you're just having that balance, because we can burn out too easily. And there will be a bit of a time bomb at the end of the year as well for employers, with too much holiday left to be taken. Sick leave is very, very low at the moment. I think it's symptomatic of people not taking sickies, which is a good thing. But equally, I think people are working longer hours. They're working not necessarily, well, probably harder, but more. And that's going to reach a peak, and that can't carry on indefinitely. So I would definitely advocate putting the laptop in a bottom drawer somewhere when you take time off, and just go. Even if you're not going anywhere, just put the laptop somewhere else, because otherwise we'll keep going. So that's my my view of productivity and balance, because I would take balance over everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like you said, I think at the beginning of everything it was what day is it? But I was also surprised, for me personally, that I was expecting the weeks or the days to drag a bit more. When we were working from home, I was like, oh, there's not going to be that routine of getting up and going somewhere else and having that feeling of coming home, or but then, like you said, all of a sudden it was 4 o'clock on a Friday, and you're like, oh, where's this
yeah week? I know. And if you're lucky, you've got a pub quiz followed by another social on Zoom that night, then you'll end up square-eyed by Saturday.
Yeah. And I think it's I mean, I've got a family and a house here, but I think it's also hard to think about just being on your own as well, just having that flat thing. I think that's maybe when it would have been much harder, because I had a young child to keep me busy, and my wife here as company, that kind of stuff. But just being, if you're self-employed and you live by yourself, that must have been really hard and continues, I'm sure, to be hard. So having this kind of breakdown of a day and having real sort of time goals to stick to, I think it would be even more important. It's
definitely from a well-being and mental health perspective as well, because people who have families have one challenge. People who don't have a different one. And you're right, if you're on your own and you are shielding and you're working as well, you've got to work harder at actually maintaining a balance, because it's too easy to slip into, well, let's just keep working. So keeping contact with other people then is so important. I'll share that in my kind of top tips later. But yeah, I would always advocate, if you know people who are on their own, that you're checking in with them when they want it, when it suits them, because it's been a very difficult time.
It has for many people. That was really, really useful. Great slide, Emma. Thank you. So if you could move on to the next slide, and the question here, the next couple of slides, is there are hundreds, I'm sure, of apps and tools out there which can help business owners work more productively. So yeah, it'd be great again to hear your thoughts and tips on that, Emma.
Yeah, definitely. And in my mind, there is only, the best tool on the market is basically our own brains. We can get magpie syndrome really easily. And we look at the app store and we see something online and go, ooh, I need this new thing. So Microsoft Teams has been, less so in the small businesses, obviously, but that's been pushed out to keep people constantly in contact in different ways. You've got Slack. There's going to be a channel for this, that, and the other. You've got Trello, which is useful. You've got Monday. You've got time tracking apps. You've got time blocking apps. You've got focus apps. You've got music apps where you can block everything else out and the distractions go, and then you're focused on something else. You can have an app and a program for absolutely everything. And I would hazard a guess that most people on this session have probably got quite a few apps that are just gathering digital dust on their phone somewhere, that they seemed brilliant at the time and this is the new way of working, and now suddenly you've just gone, I don't use that anymore, I'm not bothered, because they're not the fix for everything. And often we'll attribute our own lack of focus or productivity on, there's going to be an app that fixes this for me. But in reality, you have to step back and say, but what do I need it to do? So always think about, what are the outcomes that I need this to do? And then select your app or software accordingly. Because we get so distracted. You can, a forest is a cute app that grows a tree. That means you're not doing anything else whilst that's growing. And, there's some lovely little things out there. But ultimately, if you don't learn how to work, they're not going to fix anything for you. So I do spend a lot of time on mindset. The clue's in my business name, right? But for me, it's about, it's people, it's what happens, up here. What do we need to do to apply ourselves to our businesses and to our ways of working? And by understanding how we think and how we learn and how we work best, that's the best app we've got and the best tool that we have. And all of these other things that are out there on these different platforms are just extras that can make things a little bit more effective. But something I spend a bit of time on, in fact, if we pop to the next slide, this can really help with overwhelm and burnout and just thinking ahead to that kind of inkling of things are coming in on me a bit and I can't quite, get a focus on what I need to do. This approach from sort of Stephen Covey, it's very well used, and I don't think we use it often enough on our own. It's a big team project. It's something to do with your family, actually, because what's going through kids' minds and teenagers' minds is different to ours. Or do it with your co-business owner, or do it on your own. Get a massive piece of paper and draw a huge circle on it, as big as you can. And that's your circle of concerns that fills the entire page. And either write in it or on Post-its and stickies, you can then move things around. Write down everything that's concerning you. So it could be, what to do with staff when they come back from furlough, if indeed they can come back. It could be, are you going to get a holiday this year? It could be, where on earth are my customers actually going to come from in the future? And just start to put everything out there. Even the fact that you've had to go online and maybe understanding all of the tech platforms out there isn't your thing, that adds stress. So put it in your circle of concern. And what this means is you get everything out of your head onto paper, and that in itself is a great exercise. Then in the middle, you draw the smallest of the three circles, and that's your circle of control. And in there, if you pull those sticky notes in, put them into the circle of control, only the things that you have direct control over. So you might not be able to control your customers' spending habits in the next 6 months, but what you can control is your marketing strategy. And that's something you can take an active part in to be able to attract them in. So by understanding kind of what's on your mind, we can start to break down, there's a lot out there, and concern is even the amount of stuff in the news about coronavirus. It's still a hot topic. Brexit's bubbling away underneath, that has business impact as well, but I think we sort of push that away because it's all about virus. And there's almost a mawkish sort of checking constantly of like, oh, I wonder what's happening where and when. And we're being fed that all the time, and that's really quite disruptive. We might have concern over family health. That's something else. We often think, as business owners, we just keep going. But in reality, you could be caring for somebody who's elderly or who's ill, and all of these things do come in on us. So if we start to just plan out what we're concerned about, and then what can we control, you might find that what goes in the middle is much smaller than you expect. On the other hand, you might be able to control more than you think you can. And by taking control of it means it's something you can deal with. It means you can start to prioritize it if needed. And it just takes away a lot of the fog and the stress that we have. And in the middle, you might have an influence circle as well. That's something that we can do. So some things that you have an influence over. So you don't have influence over your customers' spending habits, but you can influence them when it comes to, maybe I'm going to do something promotional to get people in, or I can influence the payment terms in my supply chain. So maybe I can have some, free up some cash flow there. So that's the sort of logic behind working in this way and spending time, from your brain. This is it. This is about us. This isn't about an app that's going to promise to fix the world. It's about us spending time on ourselves, which is never time wasted, ever.
No, I totally agree. And I haven't come across that diagram or that thing before, and it's something I'm definitely interested in doing for myself for sure. And I think, like you said, just physically writing things down makes a big difference. Yeah. But for me personally, if I'm writing an action down, even if I prefer to write notes rather than type notes, for things like this, because it's I don't know, it engages a different part of my brain and makes it for somebody that makes it more of a priority. And I think this is a really nice exercise for, like you said, it can be for family, but specifically for small businesses is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you take 10 or 20 minutes, I tend to work in blocks of 15 minutes because it's much more tangible, and it gives you enough time to do something, but also not enough time to get too distracted. Yeah. So doing all of these exercises in 15 minutes, you just think, right, okay, I think I've now got, a better view of where I need to be. So definitely, anything like that, get it on paper. It engages left brain, right brain. If you want to then stick it on a mind map or a diagram online afterwards, then go for it. But you're missing a trick if you're not actually making marks with pens on stickies.
Yeah, for sure. And making marks and writing things down leads us nicely onto the next slide.
Yeah.
And we'll go into it in a second. And I'm going to ask Emma to talk about to-do lists. I'm a massive fan of to-do lists. And like most people probably don't get them all done, but that sort of dopamine hit you get of crossing off a list of things you've done is always good. So I'm going to ask her for advice on how to use them, and for those, and some advice for maybe have too many to-do lists, and then also talking about delegation or outsourcing when it comes to going through a business growth. So we'll talk about that in one step, but we just want to run another poll, if I can find it here, if you don't mind. So just what your where is it? Sorry, bear with me. And what your to-do lists look like. So do you feel your to-do list actually aligns with your business growth? So if you could all have a look at that and give it an answer if you do to-do lists or not. Let's have a look and see where we get to. Just give it a couple more seconds. So we're at 80%. We'll finish it there, and I'll share those results. So yeah. So the majority are saying in part. So there's maybe some people are including their shopping list on their to-do list as well. But so that's great. Thank you for taking part in that. So Emma, maybe if you could talk about the to-do list and the delegation and outsourcing as well, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. The to-do lists are great, and anything that gives us a focus that means we can understand where we need to be and how to sort of make that progress is good. But we typically don't prioritize on a to-do list. And there's something in our brains that kicks in that says, I think I'm going to put the easy things first, which is natural, but it's not right. And we don't then put the really, really chunky tasks on our to-do list. And we can have a couple of approaches to it. We can either have things that are very, very lightweight, almost like, right, tick this off, tick this off, tick this off. Or we can put things on there that are so big, they become really, really overwhelming. So to give you an example, writing a blog post is a to-do list item. Building a new website. Now that is a to-do list item, but it's not for today. That itself needs to be broken down into a huge array of different sub pieces to it. So what I always suggest people do is, again, pen on paper, mind map everything, get everything out, and almost look at your start in the middle, put your business name and have a big mind map with all the, the pieces coming off. One might be marketing, finances, your specific business operations that's specific to you, and even home, because things still get into our heads and it's in the back of our mind that we're like, oh, I know I need to renew the contents insurance, yeah, and pay the gas bill, okay, fine. But it takes that headspace. You can't grow a business when you've just got lots of, bits floating around. So get everything out on paper and then really start to look at those and say, well, what is strategic for my business? And therefore, what is a priority? And start your to-do lists from there. Now, we can often have a to-do list that gets sort of that long and we cross some things off and then we add a bit more on and more and more and more. And then there's a list on a list on a list. In reality, what we're doing is just creating a kind of challenge for ourselves to do more with less time, but with absolutely no prioritization applied to it. To really understand where we need to be, if you draw a cross on a page to get all of those to-do list things out, you won't find often that all of those things align to your business growth. We fill them with lower level activities just because it's natural, but they don't actually add to things that you need to do to achieve growth. Because if to make that sales target, you need to close, 10 new customers a month, well, that's like 2.5 a week. And so how many calls do you need to make to do that? And once you've worked out your conversion rate and you realize, oh, I need to make 30 calls or contacts to close that amount of business, then on your to-do list, you should have on a daily basis, making 5 contacts, whatever it happens to be, or 5 calls. We don't often do that. We assume the sales will close themselves in a way because we're doing other stuff. We're writing a blog post. But if that blog post is not actually strategic and it doesn't align to where your business is going, then it's a nice to have. It's not really, doesn't sit in that business growth category. So if you take everything that's on your list, and this is another great 15-minute exercise, if you draw a cross on a page and say, okay, what do I need to do and want to do, and put everything up there. And that's the really good stuff, because you'll be invested in doing it. Top right, as a business owner There's going to be a lot of need to do and don't want to do. That's normally where the bulk of things end up. And, you know, you might need to make those sales calls, but you probably don't want to. But does it align to business growth? Yes. Then put a pound sign next to it. Remind yourself, everything that I need to do really has to have value. And then everything else that's clutter. So what don't we need to do, but we want to do? Things that fall into that box are normally like finding the perfect photo to go with a blog post, because that's a lovely way of spending 15 minutes online, finding the best picture. But in reality, because it's fun, we don't need to do it. You know, you can find a good enough picture in 1 minute. And then the other box, which is really important for business owners, is, can I delegate this? So is it something that can be outsourced or delegated? And I would encourage you, even if you don't outsource yet, as a small business owner, imagine this in a year. Imagine what you could and would want to outsource. So if that's copywriting or it's bookkeeping, you might need to do your bookkeeping and don't want to do it, likelihood, unless you're a bookkeeper. But in reality, look at that and go, okay, do I want to delegate this in the future or outsource it? Yeah, 100%. Great. So an action that then falls into this is maybe research local bookkeepers and start to make tracks in that sort of area, because all the time you're doing your expenses, you're not outgrowing your business. It's a necessary evil, but this kind of approach just helps you to understand what you need to do and put a pound sign next to it because it aligns to business growth. Will it actually have an impact? And put a heart next to things that you just love, because again, this isn't all about hard work. You know, you don't need to, but want to. Maybe it's making cakes for, you know, it used to be the school bake sale, but now it's, you know, delivering them to nursing homes. Well, do you need to? Is this something it's okay to say, no, I can't do it right now? Maybe you can buy them. Maybe you don't have to make them. Just saying. Because sometimes we'll be, you know, we will beat ourselves up and take on the world, especially when it's all the extra things and family things around business. So just be really pragmatic and balance out what's going to make you money. What do you love doing? Because that's good. You need to build that in as well. And think about what you can delegate, because outsourcing is really, really powerful. And I use an example that I got caught out with a long time ago. I spent half a day doing something in WordPress. And I thought at the end of it, I drove myself mad, but at the end of it, I thought, I'm winning, I've done this. I've now learned how to do one thing I'm never going to have to do again. But isn't that brilliant? And I spoke to my web guy later that week, and they do a series of kind of like 5-10 minute updates for people, you know, quick wins. And I said, oh, well, what does that look like? I said, because for instance, I spent half a day doing this thing on, you know, on Monday. He went, yeah, that's a 10-minute job for us. I was like, oh, no.
I think we've all been there.
So, I mean, if I'm going to learn to do it because I need to do it often, well, you know, okay, fine, put it in the growth bucket. I'm good with that. But I never needed to do it again once it was built. But I could have said to him, oh, how long is this going to take you? Completely got it off my list, and would have taken the expert who knows exactly what they're doing 10 minutes.
And I guess that time taken to find the right person sort of is a good ROI, really, isn't it? And you get that time back in spades once you've spent half a day trying to research. You do.
And a lot of people won't relinquish things because they call themselves a control freak, you know, which is it's unkind, but it's kind of, you know, we all think, no, I can't do it, I can't let go. But it's often understanding that you can trust people. So delegating and outsourcing, you have to be super clear on your, you know, what the outcomes are and the expectations, and also what support they need to achieve that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where your community can come into play as well, isn't it? If you've got a good community, we can, you know, talk to people and find out where they're getting their outsourcing needs from, and, you know, word of mouth.
Yeah, totally. It's all, I mean, trust, you know, relationships are built on trust. And if you can get a good recommendation, then that pays off, because, you know, you can also understand how that person works. Yeah. So, you know, it's difficult. You get maybe bad, it might be bad experience because you haven't given that person enough. So you might outsource your bookkeeping or your copywriting and then think, yeah, but they're not doing it properly. But actually, have you given them your tone of voice? Do they really understand what you stand for?
Yeah.
No, I haven't had time. Well, what do you expect? It's kind of, you have to support people enough at the beginning that then they can go off running, and then they can be the expert in what they're the expert in, and you could be brilliant at doing what you're brilliant at, because we can't all do everything.
No, I think that's really important for people to understand and learn, isn't it? That there are people out there who can do things better than you can, and then just utilising what you're good at. And and
actually, from a small business perspective, if cash flow is obviously a concern, look at outsourcing and look at skill swaps.
Yeah, that's a really nice idea.
Because you're going to be great at something, and they're going to be great at something, and sometimes that can work out quite nicely to do a swap.
Yeah. So I'll design your website if you give me some free public speaking coaching or something along those lines.
Exactly. And just be really clear on what the metrics are, because sometimes it's, a friend's helping me means it's never going to get done.
Yeah.
But if you say, hourly rates are different, but this chunk equals this chunk.
Yeah.
Look at the value as well that it adds to you, because you can't, if you're not a designer, don't go out and spend days trying to design something badly. Yet the designer might need something that you can offer. And so just balance out the value to each of you, and it can be really quite a good way of working.
Great. I think that's given everybody a lot to think about, including myself. Go to the next slide, and this is the last sort of bits from Emma before the Q&A. So do remember to get the Q&A questions coming in on the little button at the bottom. It'd be great if you could just share and go through these top tips that you've come up with for business owners or freelancers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So these kind of really wrap up on everything we were chatting about. So in terms of working on what you need to do, reduce distractions. So if you unplug all of the alerts, the things that ping, vibrate, flash, everything, then you can, focus better. Even WhatsApp, just quieten it down. You don't need to know what the pub quiz answers are for a quiz you're not at in a group. Just quieten them down so you go in and check them when you want to. And block out time. So do look at your what's strategic, and then think about what your admin is around that. So that might be doing your emails and the sort of the filler things. Put those into chunks and say, right, I'm going to do everything I can in half an hour on that, and then I'm stopping. And then business, that's what's unique to you. So if you are face-to-face with clients, then that's specific to you. And once you build those into your diary, then you know what time you've got left for everything else. And each morning, make sure, or even the day before, plan for the next day and think about what's going to be my strategic task today. What's the one thing I can do to move my business forward that really has an impact? Start with that. And once you've done that, you'll already be ahead for the day. And stay regularly connected with people. We've spent a long time on different video platforms, and eyes are getting squarer and squarer. But pick up the phone to someone. It's really nice. Go old school. Yeah. Or now go out and meet someone for a walk.
Yeah.
And just stay in touch with people. Work out what works for them. Not everyone wants to be on a video call, because we don't need to be. Just work out what, especially people who are on their own, what suits them. Maybe it's a chat on a Saturday morning. And then bite-sized chunks. So break down the big tasks so you can have you can make more tangible progress with them. And technology can absolutely help you here, but only if you control it. So don't be a slave to all of the apps and programs. And I love accountability. So this is, another business owner potentially, or someone in your network, where you can set yourself weekly, fortnightly, monthly targets and spend time just challenging each other and working on accountability. But this is not an app. This is a human being. And it means you can also bounce those ideas around. Like, I'm thinking about outsourcing something. Well, what do you recommend? Oh, you speak to so-and-so. No. And that kind of, if you can't do it face-to-face, then we've been doing this online for ages now. It's really just helping people to stay accountable and make that progress. And also just challenge and share business issues, because anyone who's a small business owner will know that the challenges you face are different to the challenges that maybe a family member faces, and you try and have those conversations and they just don't understand what what's going on. Equally, employees have different challenges. So yeah, find your business buddies in your network, and they're really invaluable. And then sort of lastly, it's just working with your energy levels, not against them. So work out when you need to be on video calls, and work out when you need to be really, really productive. Plan that into your diary and then go from there. Because if you're on video calls in the morning, you're not going to be very productive in the afternoon, which is fine if you know you're just going to be sort of admin pottering. Or maybe if you're in a product business, you can go and put all the labels on the bottles and you can do something that's away from the screen. But just work with your energy levels. Don't think at 6 o'clock. In the evening, it's a really good time to start building in time to do big strategic chunky work on your business, because it doesn't happen. And then lastly, just choose your apps and platforms according to the outcome you need. Don't get magpie syndrome and start just downloading everything shiny. Really be critical and say, actually, I have a real issue with scheduling time in my calendar. What's out there that can help me? And go from there.
Great. There's some really, really great hints and tips. So thank you, Emma. So yeah, just a reminder, we've got the Q&A session coming up. So please do get your questions. If we could just go on to the next slide quickly, please. So just as at the top of the webinar, I mentioned that I talked to you a bit more about Tide and how you sign up. So just to reiterate, we have over 200,000 members in the UK currently, and we'd love you to become one of them. And as Emma mentioned at the top of the session as well, she finds it very useful for her business in terms of being able to split her account into different sections so she can manage her money a lot easier. So on Tuesday next week, or maybe Tuesday next week, you will receive an email from us if you signed up for this webinar, and obviously you have because you're here. And on that email, all you need to do is click on the link within the email, download the really easy to use app and complete your application, and then you can get going and starting using Tide. And do feel free to feed back to us with any suggestions or issues you're having. We really like to hear from our customers about new ideas for the app. So yeah, do go ahead, give us a try out for free, and let us know what you think. Also in the chat room, which I've just put some links in the chat room. So one is there for you to find out a bit more about Emma and what she does and get in contact with her. So there's a link there in the chat room. And then there's also a couple of links for our web pages. There's a link to our events page, so you can find out the other webinars we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then there's one for the Listen Again blog, where all of the other webinars since March are up there to listen again. For the events we've got coming up over the next few weeks, I'll just give you a quick overview. So we have looking about how to create a successful marketing strategy, how to maximize your profits, and also one about bookkeeping for small businesses. So those are all on our web event page for you to look at now. So yeah, we're going to do a Q&A session now, and I will just go into the Q&A box and find out what we've got going on. What have we got here? So we got one from Walter Esser. Walter, really good to hear from you again. You're a regular on these webinars, so really nice to have you on board again for this one. He has asked, Emma, do you recommend to prioritize by the 4 quadrants? Now, that's something I'm not familiar with that term, but maybe it's something you
Yeah, so often those kind of, the quadrants where we've got the four pieces of that to-do list. Okay. That's the exercise to do to just really break everything down. And so, yes, totally prioritize by that, because there will be areas that you think, right, this aligns to my business growth and this aligns to my business strategy. So what do I need to do first? Absolutely prioritize from that. And then some of the things might fall off. Some of them you look at, and once you've gone, well, does it make me money? Do I love doing it? Is it something that I can do to grow? Then it's kind of a, it's a good answer. So yeah, Walter says on quadrant 4 bin, I often bin things off. Totally. Because you look at it and go, well, hang on, if it's been on my list for 3 weeks or 2 months, why does it still need to be there? It's not, it's probably not right. So yeah, totally bin things off, go for it.
Nice, that's really good. I think Paul is just a comment. He's saying, I have no idea what day it is most of the time now. It's definitely a very good point, and we need to find more structure and balance. And I think, yeah, that's something that a lot of people would have taken away from that section too. And somebody also was slightly late coming into the session, and this is being recorded and it will be sent as a link on our post-event email, so you'll get a link to watch that on our YouTube channel. And like I said, you can catch up on our blog and our YouTube channel with all the previous webinars as well. What else have we got? Another one from Walter. He said, I think this is going back to the slide with the hard work and then the breakup of the day. He's saying, for me, the term hard work still sounds unfamiliar. Would it be more self-actualizing to name and live it as work in flow?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you can. You certainly can. I wasn't going to think of someone else's graphic, so I was like, I like it, it works. But yeah, working in flow. I think the only thing is, working in flow often means that you've already got a grip of it, whereas the hard work is almost the throwaway. Right? Okay, I've just got to keep going, and you can't determine what hard is, but you just keep doing that. And it's, I think we've told that as kids, if you work hard you'll succeed, but we don't often help them understand what hard work is, or good work, productive work.
Yes, I think there was Alex he wanted a bit more. Alex Blake this is, so it might be he or she, sorry Alex if I got that wrong. What did Emma mean by accountability buddy as one of the top tips? I think they may have missed that, so maybe if you just expand on that a little bit more.
Oh yeah, totally. So an accountability buddy, so by being accountable to somebody else, and I do this from a business perspective with clients, but from just between two business owners, somebody that you can spend time with online or in person and say, right, in 2 weeks we're going to meet up again. Set yourselves targets and say, right, what I want to achieve is the following 3 things on my business. And then the other person might say, okay, well, what I want to do is all this stuff over here. And you make a commitment to say, great, well, this is what we're going to do. And so when you meet up again, you can either check in and say, I've done it, or you might actually spend that time together and say, right, we're going to have half a day doing the work, because it means you then have to work on your business. So it's just somebody to check in with and say, I know I said I wanted to grow my sales by 50%. Well, I've kind of got to 40. So it's having that positive sort of, somebody cheerleading for you really and helping you. So that's it. And if it's reciprocal, then, it's really lovely. It's a good relationship.
That's, yeah, really, really, really good. I think, yeah, I've got a couple of buddies who are actual friends or work colleagues that are really important to my sort of weekly or monthly working process, and it really does help out. And Alex just sent a message saying thanks, great, that's great too. Good, I'm glad we managed to answer that for you, Alex. Well, we've got lots of questions coming in, so I'm just trying to count up for them all, so bear with me. What have we got here?
Can I just answer Andrew's from 11:49 just whilst you're reading, because
yes,
he loves a handwritten to-do list, and also adding the time. Yes, do that. Brilliant idea. Typically double what you think it's going to take. But if you add the time, it suddenly puts it into perspective when writing blog post is on there. But if it's really difficult for you to do, that might be half a day's work, whereas for someone else, it might be half an hour. So yeah, absolutely put time in, and it helps you then physically fit it into the diary.
Really useful. And there's some nice comments coming through. Thanks, Erin Kieran and Tide, for a wonderful webinar. Big fan of Emma. Her tips are great. Still finding hard to delegate, but we'll get there. So hopefully this has helped out. From Emma Lloyd, all of what you say, I get it totally. However, would you recommend juggling what you need to do for clients in order to maintain your reputation versus spending time on your own business versus making sure you take time out for you? So
yeah.
There's a question.
Brilliant point. Yeah. So this is the juggling and plate spinning all at once. It depends on what your business is. So if you run, I was going to say it's a boutique, it's a salon where you're actually delivering treatments to people, you're going to be very much face-to-face for a certain amount of hours a day. Trying to take, even if it's 2 hours a week or half a day, to try and fit that in, to say, well, I need to take this time out to work on my business. Maybe, someone else can deliver a couple of those treatments whilst you shut yourself away to think about focusing on your business. Or just try to get up a little bit earlier. And I know this is hard if people have got kids as well and everything, so there's no easy answer. But just spending 1 hour in the morning before you check your emails working on your business, then you can just put it away and let it just percolate in the back of your mind. You'll be really surprised what you can actually achieve when you just have those focused, quiet times. And even if you bake in if you do 30 minutes a day, Monday to Friday, it's 10 hours at the end of the month, you know, a day and a half in normal working hours, maybe one day for self-employed, you know. So yeah, it's really important to work on your business as well.
Awesome. We've got a question from Claire Turnbull. She said, thanks, this has been really helpful. Going forward, can you recommend any podcasts to help with positive thinking and productivity? I haven't launched yet. Brexit and COVID are making me rethink whether I ever can. I need to find a more positive way to see my business.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of really appropriate podcasts. I try not to get caught up into disappearing off because everyone's got a podcast. And in terms of books, I can share a link. I did write a blog post recently with kind of top productivity books and podcasts. And there's also one that helps you really think about why you do things the way you do. So I'm very happy to share that link.
Yeah, we can include that in the post-event email.
Yeah, definitely, because it just gives you the sort of the why it's good, you know, what it's good for. So that summarises quite a few things in one.
Great. And Kimberly, what would your one top tip that you would give in regards to how to avoid burnout during growth? So I think it's hard to pick one maybe, but is there one that you personally think is the number one?
Yeah, and it sounds easy, but it's not. And it's just stop, take a breath, and work out how you might step away slightly. And be it for an hour, half a day, a week. Work out, so the top tip would be work out how you can take time out. Okay. That would be it, because everybody needs a break, and you know, August can be quiet for people. Yep. September we get back into that flow again. So if you work out how you can take time out on a regular basis, and this is also answers Emma's point about making time for yourself. Yeah. Just work out how to take that for you, okay, whatever it wants to be.
Yeah, that's really important. There's one more question we're going to get onto in a second. Just want to run one last poll, if everybody doesn't mind, just for our purposes. I'd just like to get some feedback on how you feel the presentation and the webinar has been today. So if you could take a second to answer that poll, just as I asked the last question that we have here, and we're doing perfectly on time with 2 minutes to go. So anonymous attendee has said, how do you prioritize workload when you need to work on different time zones?
Yeah, really challenging actually, with different time zones. Understand what your core crossovers are and whether you need to be around for those. So it might be afternoon here because US is on in the morning, and work backwards from there. So if you need to have those 3 hours when you're together, that's one thing. And then you've got your everything else that kind of works backwards. So also work out what you need to do in that time for those time zones, whether it's going to be online, face-to-face, and whether it's something you can prep in advance or catch up with after. And just really block out on your calendar. You can match time zones as well, so you can actually see what the patterns are and say, right, this is it when we're all online together in the middle. Yeah.
There's an app for that, right?
Oh, there'll be an app for that, of course.
Listen, thank you so much, Emma. It's been a great honour to have you on the webinar this week, and I think, judging by the amount of questions and interaction we've had, it's been really positive for all the attendees too. Thank you again also to the attendees for hanging around and answering some great questions. And like I said, there's links in the chat room to find out a bit more about Emma and what she does, and to find out about more of the Tide events and webinars that we've got coming up. So yes, once again, thank you to everybody, including Emma, for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again at a webinar in the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.